Welcome back to the exciting conclusion of Wisdom for Actors. Yeah, it's cold in here. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. Okay, we're back for one final exciting part 4 of my conversation with Alex Collins, a fellow actor here in the Southeast who has many credits under his belt. And in this final part, we talk about something that is so important for actors and often overlooked because, actors just don't want to talk about it. And be sure to stick around to the end to hear Alex's final thoughts on this whole conversation that we've had over the course of these past 4 videos.
Let's talk about a little bit about paperwork. That's
sexy.
Yeah. That's what everyone came to this video for.
That's it, paperwork.
We buried the lead, ladies and gentlemen.
You're welcome.
But we laugh, but that's because there is so much about the business side of this journey that no actor gets into this industry because they love paperwork. I'm a former engineer, so I enjoy a good spreadsheet and some numbers and balancing things, but it's not the thing that I got into this business for. So, in your mind, what are some of the key aspects of this broad category of paperwork that are important?
Gosh, I'm not a former engineer, but I am someone who appreciates a spreadsheet and organization and meticulous attention to detail. So let's talk about sort of. We'll finish with like on-set kind of paperwork, and then we'll start with more of like the other things that go along with that. And I think, obviously actors want to be represented by agents. And so once you've gone through the submission process and you get meetings and you get an offer of representation, congratulations, they're going to have you sign a contract, right? And there are different contracts out there. Everybody's heard of SAG franchised agencies, right? Don't sign with a non-SAG franchise agency. Okay, but there's nuance within that too. There's the SAG franchise and there's the ATA, the Association of Talent Agencies, GSA, General Services Agreement. It's recognized by SAG-AFTRA, right, as an approved contract. But if you go to the union website, it also says, but the language is slightly different than the SAG franchise, which is a boilerplate contract. We don't really change anything in here. You can sign that, no problem, totally legit, codifies everything that you need to be worried about. This also, the GSA has all the same stuff, but it's slightly different in the language, so all actors should do their due diligence and negotiate things within it if they want to sign this. Now, that's not to say it's shady. Some of the biggest agents in the world have GSAs. General Services Agreement. The things that actors should be looking for are the commission percentage, right? We know union percentages should be 10%. The thing that they should be looking for is termination language. What's the early termination? If things just aren't going great and you want to exit out, okay. And then the length of the contract. What is the term of the contract? And then what is the renewal of the contract? Because they are different between these two. The SAG franchise agreement is pretty much boilerplate. You sign it and feel good about it. The GSA, maybe you want to have your entertainment lawyer friend or your mentor that we talked about or your drastically experienced actor friend or your teacher, have them look at it. Because there might be some, maybe not yellow flags, but not red flags, but maybe yellow flags to look at. One of the main things to look at is, okay, commission is 10%. But what about residuals? How long do you owe residuals? Well, it depends where the project originated. Yeah. SAG franchise contract, you owe X amount of residual payments. GSA, you might owe residuals forever. Yeah. That might not sound like a problem when you're just starting out and you've one day. But what if you're a top-of-show guest star or a series regular on a network show? What if you've done 20 episodes on a show? First airing, second airing? Forever? That's meaningful money right there. That's a big deal. And the early termination, if things aren't going great, how can you exit out? Well, it's any 90-day period where you haven't booked a job. You can cancel, you can exit out of the contract on that 91st day, right? Might not be here. in this GSA. So that's some paperwork to think about up front before you sign with an agency. And again, these are all legitimate agencies over here too. They're not trying to like pull a fast one. This is just language that slightly favors the agency versus slightly favors the actor. Then let's say you're happy and you're auditioning and you're getting your offer and you're on set. That first day, maybe it's one day, or maybe it's one of many days. You show up, you're all excited, that energy is going through you. Yeah, but you need to pay attention to the paperwork because the paperwork is in your trailer that first day. Take photos of every page. It's like 7 pages. The things you really want to be looking out for is your name, your character's name, your billing, your rate, and any of the little terms, especially now, there are things about social media, what you can and can't say. It's not just some things, some networks, some shows say you can't even promote after the initial airing because they need that first 48 to 72 hours to either get, later streaming, people looking at it in different countries. It may not be released in the European Union, in the UK till later. And so they don't want you promoting that first 48 or 72 hours after the initial airing. Oh gosh, I didn't think about that, right? So that's really important. If there's a problem, you need to call your agent. Don't sign it and be like, I'll figure it out later. Yeah, you could figure it out later, but then you got to file a claim. That's time. And that time is time that you don't have the money, the correct money that you have. Every actor should have their 24-hour emergency contact line for their reps. Every agency has one. Like different agents get assigned to man the phones, right? And why? Because what's your most common call time?
Oh, it's before the sun comes up.
Yeah, 6 a.m. usually, right? That's pretty common. Nobody's in the office at 6 a.m., but you get that contract and like, hey, Matt, we're ready for you to come to hair and makeup. 6:10, and I got a problem on my contract. So you need to be able to let your agent play bad cop. They'll reach around to casting, who'll reach around to producers, who'll come back and reprint your contract if you need to. It's really important on commercials because commercials shoot a lot. Brands shoot a lot, right? So some office PA has just been tasked with printing out the contract. They put it in your trailer, and it might be for a big car brand, and you are excited because you know it's a national commercial. But right in there in the usage, it says internet only. That internet only paycheck is dramatically, like zeros different. But if you sign it, you then are going to have to file a claim and figure that out later, and that's problematic. So let's say your contract is done. You go to set, have a great day on set, and then you wrap. What do you sign at wrap?
The G.
Why don't you talk about the Exhibit G?
Yeah, and this is essentially a time card. So it'll have your arrival time or your call time or your in time, whether you have an NDB, and which is a non-deductible breakfast, or it'll be a non-deductible meal, and that'll be in there. In 20 years, I've never actually heard an NDB called for actors. That's a discussion for another time. But it'll have all these columns that are filled out, and you'll be like, I don't know, I gotta go. I would pay attention to the lunch. Take a picture of it because you don't necessarily have to scrutinize this in the moment. I have found there's been a shift where now every Basecamp PA or Basecamp AD who is asking you to sign this actually will ask you if you want to take a picture now. 10 years ago, it seemed like it was almost something you had to do covertly. Like, hey, what's that over there? And now it's like they assume or will even ask you. In post-COVID era, some of them are actually digital now. And in which case you can ask for one to be a copy sent to you. You just want to make sure that your start time, your wrap time, and that wrap time should always be it's usually after the point that you're signing it because they're giving you a buffer of, you should have been given the courtesy of 15 minutes in hair and makeup to get out of your stuff.
More if it's period piece, right? Because there's a lot of stuff to take off and get the pins and
wigs and stuff like that. So it's oftentimes that the out time is actually after when the moment when you're signing, especially if you're very quick to wrap. But take a picture of it because oftentimes there's just an honest mistake in terms of, oh, we didn't break for lunch. It was French hours. We worked straight through the day with no lunch, but they put a half hour in there. or the wrap time might be slightly wrong for whatever reason, or there just might be something that is worthy of a claim after the fact that will affect your hours. And especially if you're doing a job for someone like Tyler Perry, who he works so fast that you might book 4 episodes of one of his episodics and you're shooting all 4 episodes in the same day. And that becomes just like this weird anomaly of you're going to sign 4 sets of start paperwork. Now, overtime, my understanding is overtime will only count towards one of those episodes if you have overtime. But it just creates so much more confusion for the average actor who doesn't want to deal with paperwork to begin with. And this way you can document it, have a picture of it, and anything that comes up in terms of a dispute, you have evidence. To the tune of 5 figures, I've caught mistakes that worked in my favor simply from either reading or taking a picture and having that documented evidence. Because when you file that claim, the first thing that the local office or the national office is going to ask for is send your paperwork, send. Like, you need all the evidence. Because the more evidence you have, the faster that claim gets filed and the faster it gets resolved. Because if you have concrete, irrefutable evidence, then it's like, okay, they'll cough up that money pretty quick.
And for those Basecamp PAs that are using, an analog version, not the digital Exhibit G, the analog one, a 1 looks a lot like a 7. A 2 looks a lot like an 8. It's an honest mistake 99% of the time. They're not out to screw you. Just some guy's doing his job, right? 1 a.m. your wrap time, well, they wrap you out at 7 p.m. because it looks like a 7. Well, you took that picture at 12:48 a.m. Obviously, it wasn't 7:30 p.m., so it was supposed to be 1 a.m. You sent that evidence over. They know that. Yeah, you got a screen grab of it, which thankfully gets the date and the time. Yeah, really important. That more than anything. Yeah. And I understand actors, right? Because the first minute you get to set, you're so excited in the morning. You want to breeze through it and go to hair and makeup and start getting into your space. And at the end, you're tired and you're ready to go home. So you just sign it and go. And you realize you may have missed 6 meal penalties.
Yeah.
Which adds up. It adds up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've caught meal penalties before and other just sort of, like you said, not egregious intentional errors. And that was one thing, like interviewing a Basecamp PA for our little interview series. It just really gave me a new perspective on how, there's nobody out to get you. Everyone's here. Everyone's just trying to do their job, and it's amazing that anything gets done. Yeah. Given how many departments there are and how much has to line up for even one day to go relatively on schedule. Maybe we'll do something like this again. Who knows? Because our coffee dates that we have, it's endless conversation. And I think it's endless what actors need to hear, whether it's new information or reminders.
This business will always have peaks and valleys. On a macro level, the business goes through periods. We might be in a valley right now. Some people might be in a peak, but on a macro level, we might be in a valley. And that's okay. It will come back up. We will all be busy. Weather the storm. You have a long enough timeline and you weather these peaks and valleys. All of us do. And then on a micro level, we have peaks and valleys within those peaks and valleys. It's okay. Breathe. If you can remember to lead with more empathy, it makes the journey easier. If you can remember to have less ego, it makes the journey easier. And know that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you were put here to do. We don't always get paid for it as often as we would like, but we do always have the opportunity to create and to tell stories, right? And if we can fall back on that in those lean times and go, what's the alternative? Sit in a cube 8 hours a day? No, thank you. No offense to anybody who sits in a cube all day. Been there, done that, would be worthless at it now.
Yes. I spent 2 years working in a cube and don't regret a day of this life because I certainly would not want to be doing that. But yeah, thanks for that sort of summary, and thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, hopefully this entire conversation over these past 4 videos has been helpful to you as an actor. If so, let me know by dropping a comment below. We'll be back to our normal videos starting next week. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.